The Free Enterprise Society was formed over 30 years ago by a group of individuals who were very concerned about the simultaneous expansion of bureaucracy, erosion of individual rights, and plunder of private wealth by slick government debt and taxing schemes. Their mission is to promote free enterprise worldwide and restore lost liberties and freedoms in America under the organic national constitution of the Republic of the United States of America. To further their goals, the Free Enterprise Society arranges training and seminars to educate the people across the country. Dr. Laurie Roth. Laurie is happily married and currently resides in Washington State, where she spends her free time walking her 2 dogs and feeding deer, raccoons, birds, flying squirrels, and anything or anyone else who might show up at her door. She really is incorrigible. Laurie Roth has a Ph.D. in counseling and a black belt in Taekwondo. If she can't reason with you, you had better duck before the roundhouse kick sends you flying. She is the proverbial pastor's daughter when it comes to her sense of adventure and her independent thinking. However, underneath her sharp wit, loony antics, and twisted views, you will find a woman with an uncommon gentle nature, a daily walk with God, and a unique talent for finding success against all odds. She is a singer-songwriter with 5 CD albums to her credit, 1 track which landed her in Billboard's Top 40 rank and on the cover of Cashbox magazine. She plays the piano, keyboard, and violin and has a voice that can penetrate your very soul. She was the host and co-producer for the popular PBS show CD Highway, which was broadcast on 155 stations across the country. She has hosted successful talk shows on radio stations from Boston to LA with no shortage of callers. Laurie is also an accomplished author, cartoonist, and artist. She has spent time in Japan and Australia and loves to travel. She is equally at home on horseback or motorcycle and enjoys scuba diving. She loves to watch NASCAR Nextel Cup racing and has always liked vintage cars. Her favorite food is, well, just a hamburger but with the works. She will be speaking on the healthcare problem and how to solve it.
All right, our next speaker, I'm really happy to be bringing you, is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. She's on 75 stations and growing. In the past, she's even been on television, on a network or a syndicated program, I guess, on television. She was recently nominated for the Ronald Reagan Award. Is that what it is? By CPAC for breaking an important story, which she's going to talk to you about a little bit, I think. Dr. Laurie Roth is on a mission to examine these issues that she talks about on her radio program. I met her when I was in Valley Forge, and that's why she came here. I was very impressed with what she had to say. So I help to welcome Dr. Laurie Roth.
Hello. When I talked with Steve, I said, I scream and yell about all kinds of issues every day on my show. And what on earth do you want me to talk about? I mean, pick your weapon. I go on and on all the time. And when he mentioned healthcare, I just about tipped over because I've been writing so many articles, and I just finished up a chapter in my book that's coming out in a few months on healthcare. And the more I go deep on this, the more I'm reminded in history of some things I don't want to be reminded of. Some of you don't know this, but I found it in my digging when I was looking into the healthcare and a little bit of ancient history. Do you know that the same day that the National Healthcare Bill was voted into law, the same exact date in 1933, Hitler's Enabling Act was voted into law. The same day. Now, some of you don't recall what the Hitler's Enabling Act was. The big part of it that Hitler pushed in German Parliament was change and health care, with a lot of rationing rubbish thrown in. with a lot of carefully worded PR thrown in. And he needed some independent votes to get it voted in. So he had 4 or 5 of those votes that he courted and talked and promised. Oh, I only need the Enabling Act and, that kind of power because of the attack recently by the Russians on the German Parliament building, because that was just hideous for the country, a crisis. The only teensy-weensy problem with that was the Nazis burned down the German Parliament building, not the Russians. But that was just a crisis, one of the many Saul Alinsky moments that Hitler had, creating new enemies, so that the people who were freedom-loving and very intellectual and talented and leading among the countries then, so that they would buy him coming and grabbing the guns. That was his next thing. Healthcare, guns. I need the guns because we are having an out-of-control danger thing going on in Germany right now. And with the Russians running around and burning down buildings, it will be better for us all if we control them for just a short amount of time, because people had guns in their homes. They weren't real excited about turning them in, but he convinced them, he seduced them. Has anybody in this country ever felt seduced and tricked? Honey. Just a little bit. Does it ever come across like Father Christmas, like Mother Teresa, like we care for you, like this is a crisis we must band together and solve? We will do it. We will fix our country together, and we will help the poor people over here that are suffering and dying. And your racist thug little pigs if you don't want to. Have you ever heard that kind of stuff coming at you? Especially the last 2 years.
Gavin Newsom recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us, fortunately, don't pay too much attention. Well, the health care bill was voted into law. And as I said, Hitler's Enabling Act was voted in the same day in 1933. What did Obama say? Think back to the campaigning moments of the progressive left in Congress and this president. He told us again and again, our national health care, the whole thing would go bankrupt if we don't vote this into law. Do you remember that? He said we would go bankrupt as a country if this didn't become a bill and law. That was the first lie. And as a matter of fact, the Congressional Budget Office itself had said it would be, a few $100 billion in expense. And only recently they have fessed up, because it's so exposed how corrupt the health care bill is, that now they're saying, they're giving that, it's probably going to be this new health bill about $1 trillion in expense, which means, translated to the morons, it's probably about $2.5 trillion, but they're admitting up to $1 trillion now. It is the thing that will be a major tool to bankrupt the country, not rescue the country at all. When you start digging into this health care bill, which I have been doing week after week, it is rationing hell for senior citizens, folks. His new director, I did a little investigation on Donald Berwick, and I'm looking at my article last week I threw out there. Oh my. Donald Berwick is a piece of work, let me tell you. Here's a quote from him from an interview in the UK recently, from our new director of Medicaid and Medicare. He says, I favor expanding choices, but I cannot believe that the individual healthcare consumer can enforce, through choice, the proper configurations of a system as massive and complex as healthcare. Yeah, we're too dumb to make decisions. He went on. Let's see, where was I? Oh, that is the leaders to do, for the leaders to do. And if a new drug or procedure is effective and has some advantage over existing alternatives, then does the incremental benefit justify the likely additional cost? We're simply not smart enough to make healthcare decisions. That's the guy running Medicare and Medicaid. Now, in the beginning, before this was voted into law, I remember the inspiration, other than Obama's mental illness, the inspiration behind the health care bill was a gentleman that was fascinated and enamored with the European medical model, Tom Daschle. Oh yeah, he adores the European socialist model of health care, and some of the terms he's written about and talked about and was campaigning about: cost lost inappropriate diagnoses such as hopeless diagnosis and forego experimental treatments. He thought that experimental treatments and hopeless diagnosis shouldn't have a whole lot of care. People need to learn to be responsible and aware of their environment and their culture and the budgets around them, the practical implications when they look at terminal illness. Think of the expense of that, what that does to your family and your culture. This is Obama's worldview. This is Dashiell's worldview. This is the head of Medicare and Medicaid's worldview. Be practical. Serve your family. So when you look at how the care is coming down already in its first implementation stages, its first few months, tens upon tens of thousands of seniors are being dropped from Medicare Advantage programs on a variety of health insurance carriers. In the East Coast, Arizona, all around. And I knew that would happen. And this is a supplemental aid that up to 11 million seniors need. Not just the Advantage program, but supplemental care, because the Medicare and Medicaid doesn't cover everything in catastrophic. So they have sought that, and that was a cost-effective one. No more. No more. It's being dropped right, left, and center. And why is that happening? Because of the worldview and the philosophy behind this that is not nativity, it is not liberal thinking, it is evil. It is draconian. It reflects what Dashiell's worldview is and the head of Medicare and Obama's worldview. Seniors are in the way. They cost too much money. We want them to be distracted by the shining light over here, that they're serving their country more and being more careful to their family and their financial needs if they consider some severe things in their forced end-of-life counseling every 5 years. And it's more than 5 years for some people dealing with terminal and really expensive problems. Trust me on that one. You'll be getting forced counseling way more than that. And magically, a lot of things won't be paid for, or at least paid for in time when you need them. With the lines, you've heard of the lines? Well, that's designed to make sure that the seniors get desperate enough and concerned about bills enough that when, with the things that are paid for magically, with the forced acorn-type counselor that they have to listen to, it's going to be assisted suicide that the insurance will pay for, but not what they need. And some of the seniors, this is what makes me so mad I can hardly talk. I've been screaming for some time on the air. They're going to manipulate hundreds and thousands of seniors to kill themselves and have it paid for by their contrived insurance, what's left of it, because they can't afford the care they need and they don't want to hurt their daughter or their son or their family. And they're trying to do what they think is right. This is called nothing else but murder. That is what it is. People can call it distorted health care. I call it cold-blooded killing and murder, just like in Nazi Germany. And it's not going to just be seniors. It's going to be those that are mentally challenged. It's going to be those with disabilities that are very expensive. Watch it come. And I don't believe we're going to have to stay with this. I hope and pray that with the spankage coming in the midterms, just in days now, that we're going, that's my new word, spankage. It kind of works for me. But again, there's no guarantee with the GOP that they'll get their act together either. I've been a long time Republican, but I'm so mad at them I could knock them all upside the head, along with the Democrats. But no one listens to my suggestions. I have said, which I think would be a good conclusion, fire them all in the House and the Senate, every last single one of them. Fire them. Fire them. And then put the dogs in there. Put the dogs in the House and the Senate, have them bite the bad guys, mark the corners, unclog the courts, and leave us the heck alone. That would work for me a lot better. Dogs I trust. People I don't. The ego, the money, the power, it just kind of gets a little distorted. But I'm not quite that cynical. I'm a little optimist here. I do believe that the GOP will have reasons to pay attention because of the 90 million strong and growing Tea Party people that are not GOP. Yeah. And they are not Democrats. And they're not libertarians. They are ticked off red, white, and blue people. They are. I've spoken at several of these things. Black, white, in between. They are not to be owned and messed with. And that doesn't, quite work with the mode, I've noticed, with the GOP old school. They're not happy that they can't own them, that they won't become an absorbed GOP. And the magic and the power of the Tea Party movement in this time in our history is that they are not owned. They are watchdogs, they're cops. They are people that are Americans, that aren't complicated, they're not dumb, they're not racist. They simply want Constitution, Bill of Rights observed, they want their freedoms back, they want to do business, they want taxation lowered, they want Judeo-Christian values, they just want the basics of our skeletal structure back. Why is that so extreme? They don't want anything extreme at all. So that is what we're facing. In just days, we're going to see this historic election, and I think it's very clear that we're going to get back to House dramatically, and it cracks me up looking at all the polls and Rasmussen, you're going to pick up potentially 39 seats in the House, and then they look at all the polls and all the races, and they go, well, maybe that's 55. And then they go, well, maybe that's 60. Oh, heck, maybe it's 75 to 100. They say, okay, it's going to be a bloodbath. Bloodbath. It's going to be a wipeout for the progressive left. Now, we don't know yet with the Senate. See, you're liking that a little too much. You're twisted like I am. I love to see the suffering. I do. I live for this. But the Senate is a little closer. I'm not quite sure what to think about that.
Balance boxer again.
Thank you. Balance. Let her go back to her people.
Yeah.
I don't know where she should go. Maybe back to Palestine or something. I don't know where she's from. I don't even want to know.
Marin County.
That's even worse. Okay, but no. We're going to see. I bet you we'll pick up 7 to 11 seats in the Senate, but it doesn't matter. Even if we don't get the Senate, we're going to get some. The key thing is we can't repeal the health care bill yet, and we need to because of the taxation. Have you heard of some of the taxation snuck in this piece of rubbish? Oh, Lord. They have a 3.8% real estate tax in there. Oh, yes. Well, another hit in the back room of the seniors again, who like to downsize when they retire sometimes and get a smaller home. Well, when they sell their home, it's not just closing costs and real estate costs. It's a 3.8% tax just because they had the privilege to sell their home. The government wants a piece of it. And it has nothing to do at all with health care. 2.5% fine to any individual who doesn't have the appropriated health care approved government program. It's not just health care. It has to be approved by the people on high, or you're fined each year 2.5% of your income. You have nearly a $400 a child fee for families. Those families that weren't going to get any tax increases, those families, $400 nearly a month or a year fee per child if you don't have the familial appropriate health care that the government approves. If you have a business, a small to medium business of 50 employees, are you ready for this? And you don't do the government approved health care program and provide it down to just the sentence and the dot, $2,000 fine per employee per year. Now think about the bankruptcies that's going to cause. Why would you hire anyone? Why would there be recovery in the economy? Why would you do anything that you would have to provide health care that the government ordered and then be fined if you don't? That is what is in this bill. They even put something so ridiculous. This one is kind of funny, but it's absurd. It's like the real estate tax. It doesn't have anything to do with health care. There is a 10% fine and tax for those of you who want to go to tanning booths and salons. You go get a tan, it's a 10% tax. It's all in the health care. What on earth are they smoking? A tanning tax. Okay. My mind. For those of you who want to have a moment of tanning, but you don't want to pay the tax, why don't you consider, let's try something different, and I'll buy no beauty treatment. Listen, the tanning is too expensive. It really is. Oh, but these are all snuck in there. Investment, people.
Race tax.
Yeah, there you go.
Michelle doesn't go to a tanning bed.
That's right. So obviously they stuck in every kind of tax. There's investor taxes it's not good to invest. And if you have more money, if you have a fancy insurance policy that's a Cadillac insurance policy for an individual, that's massive increase in taxes for that. And if you have a group plan that's a Cadillac, see, you're not supposed to like your insurance that you have now or have one that actually works. You're going to pay big premium bucks on that. And why is this? Why are they putting this out and creating such chaos and dropping Advantage programs around the country, forcing insurance companies to do things they can't afford to do, so the rates have gone up? I don't know if you've noticed with your insurance rates, them going up. My husband and I have insurance, health insurance through his work, and they immediately went up. Well, didn't take, a month or two, and our rates went up. And guess what? Our services went down. I thought, isn't that classic? I talked with Dr. Elena George. She is a surgeon from Atlanta, a couple weeks on my show. She was something else, and she has studied this bill in depth, and she has a private practice. And she feels that the way it is written and put together, it was meant in the beginning, at its evolution and creation stage, to be so chaotic and so poorly put together and so expensive that it would collapse and destroy our healthcare system on purpose. I said, that's pretty wild. And so I looked at some of her factoids and some of the way she put things together. She says, Laurie, it is obvious it was meant for it to fail so that Father Christmas and the rescue machine, the government health care, would come in and save the day when nobody could afford health care insurance anymore. The seniors aren't getting care. They need all this supplemental care. Where will they look? Where will they go?
The government.
Mm-hmm. The government that doesn't care for the seniors, that wants them to die and not be cared for anyway. Daschle has said it many times, Obama has said it, and the head of Medicare and Medicaid, Donald Berwick, has said it. We have to be practical about health care, and we have to look at cost-effective measures per how many years you will achieve any kind of reward from that care. I mean, we can't just do something that's going to cost $50,000 or $100,000 if you're going to only live for 3 years. Now, if you're like me, I think, and most Americans, worth and our uniqueness comes from God, not government. It matters diddly stinking squat what your health challenge is, your age, anything, your money, your color, I don't care. God says you're royalty. He says you're worth everything. And we as Americans have always valued human worth. That is why we have the best healthcare system in the world. Highly coveted and sought after. And we are watching an invader in the White House and in this Congress, socialist communist philosophy, trying to shred that because it allows too much freedom, it honors capitalism, it honors people and choice. And I understand that we all could look at challenges and solutions for health care. We need to look at how can we make things better. But we don't transition ourselves in Frankenstein's laboratory to a communist country doing it. We don't kill people. We don't force us all to become serial killers and pay for abortions if we find that evil and wrong, which I do. And now I'm a serial killer. I don't much appreciate that. And I don't appreciate the fact that my parents have to live in fear wondering if their Advantage program is going to be dropped next in their area they live in, Washington. They need supplemental care because Medicaid isn't enough. I am watching the outflow of this. I've talked with CEOs at hospitals that are seeing major problems. Do you remember the bill? I don't remember the number on the bill, but Obama passed it early on that disallowed any private hospitals to be built and compete anymore. Yeah, no more private hospitals can be beat. If hospitals that own themselves, the doctors, and there are lots of them because of competition. He's hoarding in. He's trying to control all the cards in the deck and don't want more competition. competition because they actually work and pay their bills, and they reach out to poor people too, which they always have. But the lines you hear is it's always, oh, they don't serve people, they don't help people. In their view, redistribution of wealth is what we're seeing, and it's really not redistribution, as you know. It's stealing, it's communism. I shared with you some of the taxes, the tanning tax of absurdity, the increases, the fines. They can call it whatever they want. They play name games. Fines and taxes for individuals, companies, investors, to do anything with your money now. But there's other taxes that you should be aware of that are coming in relationship to health. I didn't realize this until I did a little more digging, and we're all going to see this. Did you know that your next tax return, you're going to make a lot more money and pay a lot more tax just because? Do you know why? Because now your insurance will be income on your W-2s. Did you even have a clue? Your insurance that your employer gives you as part of your package is now income on your W-2. That is going to put many of you into a whole new tax bracket. So you're going to be hit the first way, then you're going to be hit and cold gocked upside the head again, because now you're in a higher tax bracket and you don't make a penny more. You just have health insurance that's gone down in service, so it's minimal health insurance at best. That's one of the things you should know. And we're fighting. And as I said, it's days until the midterms. And I think we're going to see, we're going to see the GOP take over the House. Big movement in the Senate, I don't know, 7 to 11 seats, I bet. There's a lot of close races there. They're talking about repealing. Of course, they'll veto it, so they can't just waltz in there and repeal it. But they can defund it and do what they call zombie legislation. They can just take it into really Frankenstein's laboratory and destroy it. Make it so that it's so inept and so neutered that it can't unfold. They're going to have to. Because like I said, people like myself and real conservatives and the Tea Party people are all over them like white on stinking rice. We are. And none of us, and I'm a lifelong Republican, I trust them about as much as I trust Satan. Honey, I'll bomb you. Don't you even think about doing this 50-yard line crap again. Don't even think about going there. And some of them are. Well, we can work with you. Work? Let's take them into a field and beat the snot out of them. Okay, that's working. That works for me. I know you can't do that, but it's a good fantasy on the side. It's a good thought. That works for me. Oh, goodness. I look at all the people that would have a challenge now with these new rules coming down of getting health care, and certainly health care in time. And I am probably one of those, and I'm not 93. But I was hit and nearly killed in a very, very severe, highly publicized motorcycle accident August 25th, 2005. I was riding my motorcycle down from Mount Spokane, and a deer jumped on me. I crashed on my face on the road right here. And I didn't have one of those helmets that goes across. It was a full helmet, but
full face.
Full face, yeah. It wasn't a full face helmet. And so anyway, I don't remember the deer. I don't remember the crash. But my friend was riding her bike in front of me, and when I didn't follow her, she came back and saw me. And the upshot of all that was I broke everything in my head, crushed my forehead, destroyed my eye socket on this side, broke it severely in several places, my jaw in 3 places, my jaw over here, my mandible in 2 places, part of my neck, severed the roof of my mouth, brutalized my muscles and my nerves all in my mouth. And those were just the good injuries. And then there were the severe brain injuries where I slammed my brain against the skull, massive bruising in several areas of my brain. I was in a coma for weeks, in the hospital for months. And never expected to even know my husband or my children or talk normally or walk normally, let alone even think of something so arrogant as a career in radio or talking again or communicating. They told my husband, she's not going to be doing radio again. Because I was known as the Annie Oakley of the airwaves. I was not a shy person on radio. I wasn't mean and hateful, but I was intense. And I was 3 hours a day, let her rip. And they said she's not going to be doing that again. And so my syndicator dropped me. Rich had to shut the show down, and I came home and I looked like a balloon size, kind of a basketball size headed Frankenstein with scars and lines everywhere. My left eye was closed, my lip hung down. I couldn't close my lips because of the nerve damage. Couldn't put them together. So obviously I couldn't talk and form consonants. So I came home very dizzy, extreme double vision with this eye. This eye still sees double vision. There's twice as many people here as you. It's amazing how optimistic I can be. I can go out and talk to 2 people and it's 1,200, you know. But yeah, this eye doesn't work. And I've trained myself over days and days and months and months and months of practice to talk again.
Praise the Lord.
And I'm totally numb from here down.
Wow.
I can't feel. And I had several surgeries on my muscles and nerves. The first one failed. The second one made it so that I remember the day when I could put my lips together and not drool for once and spit on people when I talk. I was so embarrassed. You know, I'd go to church and I'd drool and spit and I couldn't feel anything, so I couldn't tell that I was doing that, but I knew it was happening. I thought, how do I even have friends? How do I even talk to people? And I had my front tooth that had been knocked out. It was an old crown, so I was toothless for months. And drooled and spat at people just to go shopping. And so that was my life for a long time. And I just went to prayer. I got up early in the morning. I couldn't sleep because of my brain injury, so I was up at 4 every day. So I went out and I lit a candle and I prayed. And I just started imagining, well, what could I do? What could I do? And I just worked on trying to get my eye to work and not fall, learn to walk again, learn to talk again. And after the second surgery, I remember the day I could close my lips together and I could return a kiss to my husband. That was big. That was huge to me. And 7 months later, after working every stinking day to get my act together and learn to talk, I was looking in the mirror, forming things with my lips over. I mean, that's really how hard I had to work to come back. Several articles were written on me by WorldNet Daily and Canada Free Press and all kinds of groups about my comeback. Newsmax magazine did a thing on me last year, and nobody expected me ever to come back. And so when I did, I remember my first night on the air 10 months later. I remember the liberals had sent me hate letters and hate emails through the entire time I was in the hospital wishing me dead, saying, you finally got your karma, what's coming around. I knew that's how they treated me. And so my first night back, I remember a call came from a guy in Cleveland, and he says, well, Dr. Roth, I can't believe that you're even on the air again. You sound like a moron. Obviously your brain is still left on the road. You can't even think and form sentences now. So here came the insults. Oh, good. Let's make fun of someone who's nearly creamed and dead. And, but bring it on. It's just like the people marching at the military, funerals. It's like, okay, bring it on, bring it on. And so he did. And I remember, well, what do you say to that? So I remember saying, isn't it a miracle of God that in this condition, a complete ignoramus with an IQ below plant life, who can't form sentences, who can't even think now, isn't it a miracle of God that I can do a national radio talk show like this and you can't? I started again. That's been a long time on the air. Now how have I done? Well, I have 2 syndicators that have picked me up. A third one, starting tomorrow, has signed a contract, and so they'll be working on. My markets are building. I have a publisher that's publishing my first book out the first quarter, where I talk about my comeback, and it's called "I Got Off Life Support So Can America," and it's a political book, hard-hitting book, and have a healthcare chapter, which is not pretty, let me tell you. But I thank God for second chances, and I believe this country is like roadkill as I was, and I believe that we will come back, and I believe that God loves this country, and He will give us. He's raising up a people, and I really, really believe that. I wouldn't be fighting so hard. How much? 10 minutes? Okay. He was putting his hands up, and with my eyes don't work so good. I thought, who is that? Is that someone flipping me off? Oh no, he's just giving me something. love you and they hate you all the time. I remember, let's see, 3 months ago, I think I was called a name that was my favorite name. I'm called things I can't share with you here. But this guy called, he was a progressive, wacko, upset because I didn't like the health care bill. And he says, well, Dr. Roth, we all know who you really are. Why don't you just tell us? And I said, well, who am I? He said, we all know you're the Antichrist. Oh. I wasn't quite sure. I kind of waxed a little junior high. I said, that's Dr. Antichrist to you. I mean, I didn't even have a clue what else to say. I mean, what am I going to do? Argue about theology with this guy? Zap him. But, that is what we're dealing with, the whole attitude in this country regarding healthcare. I think the majority of the people have voted for some time. They didn't want this healthcare. They want healthcare. Everyone wants everyone to be treated fairly. Nobody wants to be a jerk. But things that we actually do need to do with the healthcare, like tort reform, portability, we need to encourage people to, we need tax relief with people who will pay for a family member. Charities need tax relief. Give them reasons and incentives financially to pay for health care in local areas with friends, family members. I mean, there's so many things that this government, if they wanted to help and stay out of health care, could help people get the treatment. Have you ever known anyone who's been left on the road, whether they're an illegal alien or poor person without health insurance? They walk into a hospital, by law they have to get help now anyway. It's not like we are jerkweeds and hate people and won't help people. We will. But we have to think about it. And yes, we need health care. We need health care reform. We need to stop the idiot lawsuits going on to doctors around the country because of greed. Well, that brings, in fact, I was looking at some estimates. Do you know half of our health care bill, where was my budget? It was nearly $2 trillion. Half of it in this report I found was waste due to lawsuits. That's an area we need to focus on reform, and we can help people in the bottom line. I and my husband had no health care when I was nearly killed. None. And we had a 2 and a 9-year-old. Our only income was stopped with the radio show for months and months and months and months and months, for 10 months. And did I get help? My accident was $500,000. We got on Medicare, and my church put together a fund. My family helped me, my friends, my neighbors, and Rich was limited by Medicare. He had to go out and get a minimum wage job while I was in a coma and work on a construction crew. He couldn't even earn the normal wage. Medicare's rules, if you earn more than minimum wage, we won't pay your wife's hospital bills, and we would have gone bankrupt. So there's reforms that need to happen. Yeah. But people don't just go down the toilet when they don't fit the bill. So I'm thankful for being here. We'll keep working on stuff.